Today I'm going to show you how to prepare your Quiltworx pattern for a class. Every Quiltworx instructor needs you to arrive with your foundation papers prepped and all your templates and fabrics cut. So let's take a look at that process. Regardless of the pattern that you're using, you're going to follow these steps. Every new Quiltworx pattern comes with a cover sheet, your foundation papers, and a multi-page instruction booklet for the pattern. I always tell my students to look for the scan code on the first page, scan it, and it will take you to this pattern located on the Quiltworx website where you can check for corrections. You also want to check the list of what should be inside of your pattern as far as foundation papers and ensure that you have all the foundation papers it says that you need to have. The first couple of pages are pretty standard no matter what pattern you have. It tells you the basics as far as supplies, terminology, and it gives you layouts for all of your templates and your units. You'll also find a fabric chart. This is a great place to put swatches of the different fabrics that you're going to use for the different units you'll be sewing. As you flip through the pattern, you'll also see layout diagrams for your templates. This is very helpful, and if you'll just go through and highlight these different areas, it will help you work through the pattern and prepare your pattern. I take my instruction booklets apart and I put them in plastic sleeves and I keep them in a notebook. This way I always know where my instructions are. I also like to print out my Quiltster diagrams and use those for my fabric charts. If you'll do this with all of your Quiltworx patterns, then if you want to make the pattern again, all you have to do is order your foundation papers at a fraction of the cost of a new pattern, and you'll already have your instruction booklets highlighted and ready. This pattern works in a triangle quadrant. So I'll be making 4 sets of these pieces. You can see here that this is where the cutting instructions begin. I'll follow all of my highlighted areas, placing my templates on the fabrics as instructed, cutting and grouping them according to the directions. Before we can begin cutting our fabrics using our templates, we need to prepare our foundation papers by cutting our units and our templates. Some would rather stack multiple sheets that are the same, one on top of the other, and using the same method that you use to do a kaleidoscope quilt, they place pins through the multiple sheets at points that are easy to find and line up. Using Judy's original method, they even use staples to staple within the body of their template sheets to hold it stable while they cut them. The light table method works really well for up to 4 identical sheets stacked on top of each other. Make sure that all the sheets are turned the same direction. Place the first sheet on top of your light table, and then use your repositionable glue stick to put a small amount of glue in only the areas that are going to be cut away. You do not want to put any glue on the units themselves or on your templates. Once you've done that, you can line it up on top of your light table and take the next sheet, placing it on top, and using the light through the light table to see and match up all the different corners and lines between the sheets. You can see that it makes it very easy to make sure that everything is stacked perfectly. Then I just smooth it out, making sure that the repositionable glue sticks the multiple sheets together. This works nicely on the light table turned up to the brightest setting for up to about 4 sheets. Then move your light table out of the way, and then I turn my foundation sheets over, and I'm still able to see fairly well in this well-lit area. And I'll put a little bit of repositionable glue on the very back piece of foundation paper, again in areas that are going to get cut away, so that when I lay it flat on my cutting table, it'll stick to the cutting table and make it a little bit easier for me to cut without it shifting around. You can see in the video that I'm wearing a brace on my right hand, which is my dominant hand. Unfortunately, several weeks ago, I broke my wrist and I had to have surgery. So I'm still recuperating in this video, which means that I technically cannot cut using my dominant hand. So I look a little wobbly as I'm trimming these foundation papers using my left hand and my rotary blade, but I got it done. It is not necessary, nor is it advisable to cut right on the outer boundary lines. And you can see that because I'm not actually left-handed, I'm probably leaving a little bit more off to the sides than I normally would, but that's okay. Cut as close as you are comfortable and as confident as you are that all of your lines are stacked well and precisely. With the magic of video and speeding things up, we're going to get through these in short order, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now I've grouped everything by unit numbers. The unit numbers are printed very clearly in bold lettering on the units. And now I'm going to take all of the like B1L units and I'm going to paper clip them together. Refer to your instructions in your individual patterns for how many units you need to clip together according to the pattern that you're cutting. Be careful as you're looking at the unit numbers. Sometimes there are left and right units. Here's an example of left and right units. You can see that they're labeled B2R, and I need to make sure that I have all the ones labeled right together, and then I'll do the same thing with all the ones that are labeled left together. It's important to understand that the foundation papers you've cut that are labeled units are the actual foundation units you will be sewing your fabric to, and these will be the pieces that we will be putting together to comprise our Quiltworx project or quilt. Now I'm going to take my templates and I'm going to sort them according to the numbers that are on the templates. Remember that the templates are labeled just like your units are. Use your instruction booklet as a guide. If you'll follow those highlighted areas, it will make it very easy to identify which templates go together. Now I'm ready to begin taking my templates and matching them up with the fabrics to cut and prepare my fabrics. The first one in this particular case that I'm going to be using are my fabrics for BE1 and BE2, and my instructions tell me that I need TLS number 2. I open the fabrics up according to the instructions and place them lengthwise, right side up. This is especially important if you're using woven fabrics, cotton woven fabrics. My instructions tell me to take these two pieces of fabric, which were 16 inches by 42 inches wide, and stack them one on top of the other. Making sure that everything is nice and smooth and neat, I stack the fabrics one on top of the other on my cutting board, and then I find the corresponding template that goes with these two pieces of fabric. I refer to the information on the template to make sure I have the right template, and then I flip it over and I use my repositionable glue pen, putting some glue on the back. It doesn't have to be a lot, and it creates a post-it note sticky that I can use to place on top of my fabrics. This holds it in place while I do my cutting. Note that I placed it away from the selvage edge, which is going to get trimmed off. I'm only cutting through 2 layers of fabric here, so I'm going to attempt cutting it using my combo broken wrist left hand method. Obviously, I would never cut this way, but you do what you have to do, right? My pattern cutting instructions tell me to cut 4 pieces from each fabric. So I can pick these up and lay them on top of the next 2 and cut again. Or I can peel my pattern up, set those aside, and lay my template down on the next two. It really is a personal preference. You choose what works best for you and you're most comfortable with. Once I've done that 4 times, I have 4 of the purple colorway and 4 of the blue. And I have excess, which I fold up and set aside in case of a tragic accident or mistake. Now I'm going to take them and group them together, all the purple colorways and all the blue colorways. Once I've got them all grouped, I'll put the template back on top of all 8 so that I can cut according to the template. It's very important to follow the lines and the diagram of the template for cutting because sometimes things intersect. They're numbered, the cutting lines, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. In this case, those 2 cuts actually gave me some scrap in the middle, and I can see that they're labeled according to which side of the unit, which one is going to be section 1 and which one is going to be section 2. So now I'm going to paper clip those together. Section 1 pieces never have a sew side marked, but each subsequent piece says sew side. It's a good habit to get into putting your paper clip where it says sew side and then stacking them with the sew sides up. This will make more sense when you come to class and I show you how to put them together. Now that I've got those done, I'm going to grab a plastic bag and the units that go with them, and I'm going to put all of them together and group them in a plastic bag. This is detailed in your cutting instructions for each one of the different unit groups in your particular pattern. It's a good idea to save plastic bags, or you can just use cheap Ziploc bags in varying sizes to hold your pieces. Complete all of your prep of your templates and your fabrics before you come to class according to the instructions, including bagging the units and the fabrics together. That way, when you arrive, we'll be ready to sew. Be sure to follow me at sewflyquilts.com, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and join my Learn to Quiltworx page on Facebook for more tips and tricks. See you soon!